Before we get into the podcast episode, I just want to remind you that this conversation, so anything I share or my guests share, is really just designed to inform and educate, get you thinking about your own health. It's not designed to diagnose, treat, prevent or cure any disease, and in particular any thyroid disease. If as a result of this conversation, you want to get something checked out, please do that with your own health professional. That's where you should be getting your individualised medical advice from. Having said that, I really hope you enjoy this conversation and that it really helps support and encourage you on your thyroid journey. Well, welcome everybody to episode 134 of the Let's Talk Thyroid podcast. We've got a fresh interview today, or everyone's fresh, but this one is a topic we haven't covered before with a professional we haven't had before, so I'm really quite excited about this conversation. I'm going to be talking with Dr Nayan Patel, who is a pharmacist, all about perimenopause, menopause, how that impacts on thyroid issues, HRT, all the different kind of options that we have available to us in this stage of life. And so we haven't really covered that, and certainly not from a pharmacological point of view. So looking forward to getting into that. And so welcome, Dr. Patel.
Oh, thanks for having me today. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, and so I know you talk about lots of different things, Dr. Patel, but can you just give us a short kind of introduction as to who you are and what you're passionate about?
Oh, absolutely. So my passion has always been in finding solutions, i.e., could be pharmaceuticals. In my past life, I was an engineer. I wanted to conquer the space, and that was every young kid when they grew up. I said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to go to outer space." I said, "Why?" It's because there's nobody there. So you realize that the passion is to be geared towards something that is more fruitful, and so I drew my passion towards pharmacy. And like everything else, as you are graduate from a pharmacy school, you realize that the institution has a plan for you, and they don't listen to you, and they didn't listen to me that I want to help the people with the medication needs. Instead, they told me, "Well, no, we are going to give you the medication that you need to give to the patients, and you're going to manage the people's problems for the rest of their lives. You're not going to solve any problems." And so I said, "Okay, that's kind of a scary deal that I had to make with the pharmaceutical companies." But anyways, I broke the path and dove into customized medication, and the field I chose was endocrine system, dealing with hormone replacement therapy, both the gonadal hormones, pituitary hormones, hypothalamic hormones, different ways of looking at the whole endocrine system and see if I can make an impact on my patients' lives. And so I've spent countless years in trying to figure out solutions and see how to make the routine simpler, because nobody wants complexity in life anymore. And so my job is to figure out what's the simple thing I can do on a daily basis, which is absolutely, I don't have to think about it, just do it. And I don't have to worry about it for the rest of my life. So that's what my journey has begun. For 25 years later today, I'm still practicing pharmacist. I still have a compounding pharmacy, and I see patients not on a regular basis, because most of my clients are doctors. And I teach doctors on how to basically manage people's plans.
Right. Well, look, I'm married to an engineer, so I understand the wanting to solve problem thing. That's very much that. Yes, I see a problem, got to fix it, find a different solution. So I can see how that translates then into what you're saying, into pharmacy and finding better solutions for patients and simpler solutions. I love that. And so when we're talking about, before we kind of get into all of the HRT things, I was just wanting to touch base, because again, we haven't really covered this in detail on the show, and perhaps, I was saying to you before, perhaps this is a whole nother conversation, but given a lot of women around the world are on thyroid medication, and there's lots of different kinds of thyroid medications, although you've kind of got your very stock standard levothyroxine is your base level. What, in terms of, I suppose, looking for different solutions in terms of medication, where we're talking specifically thyroid medication, can you kind of talk us through perhaps some of the other options for thyroid medication, or some of the things that you've come across that you've seen work well for patients, or just sort of, your thoughts around that topic?
Absolutely. So, you know what? When it comes to thyroid medication, our body only makes a couple of thyroids. Levothyroxine, levothyronine, T4, T3 is our body produces abundantly. It responds to something from the pituitary called TSH, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. It responds to that particular hormones, and the
Mm-hmm.
body responds to that by producing thyroid based on our body's needs are going to be. And then the T4, which is the most abundantly found in the human body, will convert into T3 to make it active form. And that's what gets inside your cells and does all the job for us. And if you have excess of the T3, the T4 will convert into reverse T3, which is inactive form of thyroid. And then 4 goes down to T2 and out the system. There's a way the body buffers every single thing so that nothing gets into excess and nothing just lingers around in your body for long periods of time with
Mm-hmm.
no place to go. So the body has the systems built into where it responds to stimulus, body produces a hormone, converts into active form. If you have enough of the active form, converts into reverse T3, which is an inactive form, and just gets rid of it either way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of the mechanism the body is working off of it. The thyroid gland is right in your throat. It's a very, very small gland and is very receptive or could be very destructive when it gets exposed to radiation. And as you can imagine, in this world, the amount of radiation we have today is an all-time high.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, if that is true, then literally more than half the world's population should have some thyroid challenges in terms of overproduction,
Mm.
underproductions, overactive, underactive, not doing the right thing for us. And we see that in the medical practice all the time. As the number of people having thyroid disorders, either too much or too little, either way, we have an issue to deal with it on a regular basis.
Mm. Yeah, and so, I mean, I know the standard medication is just the T4 replacement, which then obviously requires your body to convert it into T3. I mean,
Yes.
personally for me, that's I've tried a few different medications over the years, over 30 years, but I've come back to the T4. Like, so I am on the kind of, your standard thyroid medication, but I know that different kind of compounded T4, T3, or T3 only, or slow release T3, or fast release T3, like those perhaps a little bit more common than they used to be. Do you find, is that?
And yeah, then there are some other medications, which is a porcine thyroid,
Oh,
which is
yes. Yeah.
armor, uh, which is a certain concentration. It's like 3.3 is to 1 ratio of T4 to T3, which is the ratio for pigs, but not for humans, right?
Uh-huh.
Humans are more like a 4 to 1 type of a ratio as to how
Mm-hmm.
much thyroid we have in our body, 4 parts of T4 to 1 part of T3. It probably has to do with stress levels are so high that in the stress, our body doesn't convert from T4 to T3.
We've got more stress than a pig. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the pig, by the time the pig figure out that it's going to get butchered, it's too late, and all the
Yeah.
stress is
Okay.
high. So, but yeah, the thing is, when it comes to thyroid medications, yes, your standard choices you have for the T4, but then there's T4, T3 combinations available commercially called Thyrolar. There's another product named like that. Then you have Armour Thyroid, which is a porcine thyroid, which for a few years ago was kind of pulled off the market because they couldn't control the content of iodine inside the thyroid medication.
Ah, okay.
And so
Hmm.
FDA pulled it off the shelf. They had to stabilize those molecules again and basically make them available again for the first time. And so that was a few years ago. So now there's no issues like that. Then there are some Nature Thyroid, there's products available where it's a combination of both T4, T3 combination in the particular ratio, which is 3.3 is to 1 ratio, which is more mimicking, again, porcine thyroid, not human thyroid. But
Hmm.
so there are multiple choices of drugs available commercially already ready for us. And then
Okay.
what you mentioned again is compound version, which is a T3 combination, because everybody's nutrition and the stress levels are different. Exposure to radiation is different, right? I fly almost on a weekly basis somewhere in this aluminum chute across the globe, and my stress levels are different than somebody who's sitting home and not traveling at all. And so their needs are going to be different for everybody. So the question is which is the right option for me? I just want to make sure people understand the thyroid has a very, very low therapeutic index. What does that mean? That
Yeah.
means that this medication works in a very, very narrow range. So if you take a product and if it works for you and you got your completely balanced off, don't change the medicine
Mm-hmm.
because it's on sale or somebody says, oh, it's a generic available. No. If something works for you, you should not change the brand, you should not change the product, and you should not change anything about it other than taking the same medication over and over again. Because
Yeah.
slight variation can throw a thyroid off the chart completely. So
Yeah, that's really helpful. I know here in Australia, and I'm not sure if it's the same in the States, but in the last sort of couple of years, they're really kind of pushing in terms of the just Roxin as the brand is the levothyroxine I've taken for forever, the one that goes in the fridge. There's now one that doesn't need to go in the fridge, that's shelf stable, and the pharmacists here are really pushing that. If you ask for the refrigerated one, you've often got to fight for it a bit. And they're like, it's the same. It's like, well, how can it be the same when one needs to be kept in the fridge and one doesn't need that? You can't tell me they're the same. And so I think that sort of fits with what you're saying, is that don't vary, like, or if you're going to vary, expect it's not going to have the same result. It could potentially, like you're around
exactly.
it. Anecdotally, that's happened. I haven't tried the non-refrigerated one, and if that one works for you, great. But if I've heard a lot of people say that they've kind of not been, in a sense, given a lot of choice, or they haven't thought it would make that much difference because they've been told it's the same, but yet it's really mucked them around with their thyroid hormone levels. So that's really helpful information.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one in the United States, we always have the non-refrigerated version of the T4 only.
Okay.
We never had the refrigerated version ever
Okay.
available. For the last 25 plus years that I've been practicing, almost 30 years, I've never seen one refrigerated form of thyroid in levothyroxine. There was a T4,
Interesting.
there was a T4 T3 combination available that
Mm-hmm.
used to be in the refrigerator, but that's been pulled off the market years and years ago as well. So all the thyroids that we have today available in the United States is everything is non-refrigerated,
Uh-huh.
pretty stable, and we don't have to worry about the therapeutic outcomes with those products.
Yeah. And is there much customized, that sort of customized, individually compounded thyroid hormone? Are you seeing that much?
So this is what we do. We do
Mm.
in my pharmacy, I think probably have close to 300 to 400 different strengths of T3
Oh,
combination.
wow. Oh, my gosh, that's a lot.
It is insane because everybody's needs are different, right? Based on
Mm.
your lifestyle, your behavior, your where you live, what kind of air you breathe, right? What kind of diet you have. If you have a lot of fish in your diet, have a lot of radioactive materials in your diet. I know nobody wants to eat radioactive materials, but you know what? It's the choices you make. And so if that's the case, is your thyroid needs are going to be different all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, based on that, we're not married to a fixed ratio, 4-to-1 ratio. We can make whatever concentration we want. And the doctors in the United States go crazy on me. They're very adjusting, so fine tuning them out to
Mm.
making sure that there's no excess medication being prescribed. They just want to prescribe them what they give. Other thing is that for T4, T3, for the conversion from T4 to T, your body needs to have enough magnesium, selenium, zinc, iodine, all these different minerals and elements. The conversion makes it easier. And so either you can take a multivitamin to do so, have a proper diet. But what we have done is we have used those elements and put inside the capsules with the thyroid to begin with.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
it's not enough to do a full replacement of all those minerals, but
Mm-hmm.
it just helps you enough for the T4 to T3 conversion.
Okay. Yeah. Which is often where people get stuck, isn't it? Is in the body,
Yeah.
actually making that conversion. And
And
so
the
you find, sorry, you go, Dr.
and,
Patel.
and the biggest issue for the conversion is more than nutrients is your stress level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your cortisol. So let me just point this out, that hierarchy, because this is what I want people to understand that part.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the whole endocrine system as a pyramid,
Mm-hmm.
the bottom 40% of the total solution is your stress management, cortisol management. This is where the bulk of the problem is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And most people say, well, I combat stress because I cannot live my spouses. I cannot quit my job. I live in this environment. I cannot change the environment. I cannot change anything that I would like to change because that's what's stressing me. So they think they have no control over that part. So we can go with that if you want to, but that's the 40% of the problem.
Okay.
The
Yep.
next 30% of the problem is insulin, diet. So your diet and your stress is 70% of the total problem right there.
Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot. The next 20% of the problem is your thyroid.
Uh-huh.
And the last 10% is your sex hormones. But
Uh-huh.
yet people come to me, I have hot flashes, nights where I can't sleep. Can you give me some hormones? I said, well, the solution is all at the bottom where I can manage your stress first. Are you sleeping okay? What's the sleep pattern looks like? What do you eat? Oh, I eat very healthy. And I look at the healthy diet. I said, oh my God, you should be eating literally 80% of the stuff that you put in. No, you can't eat any of this stuff, right?
Interesting.
If there's a label on the food, it has inside, that's a wrong food. It's processed. Because real
Yeah.
food has no labels. Have you seen a label on a banana? No,
Yeah.
never.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to put down what's in the banana. It's already there, right? And
Yeah.
so if there's a label on the food, it's not real food. We can't eat that stuff. But that's what the issue is going to be. So anyways, I just want people to understand that, yes, as much important the thyroid is, there's two more things more important than thyroid itself, which is stress management and diet.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting. It doesn't really matter who I talk to on what topic on this show. I'd say 99% of the time stress comes up as a really core issue. So my listeners should be used to at least knowing, being at least on the radar that stress is really important to learn how to manage. And I don't buy that you've got no control over your stress. I
Of course not.
understand there are some things that can be difficult to control that may take time to work through, but I don't buy that you've got no control. I think that's
You have to make conscious decisions that this is what I want to change. If
yeah.
you say I want to change, you can change anything in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them might be hard decisions, like to change a
Yes.
job or to leave a toxic relationship or to get some, counseling and support to work through some trauma. Like all those things can be difficult, but
Yes.
not impossible. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, well, that's probably a nice segue into the tiny little tip of the sex hormones. But maybe before we get to that, given you've said that is only, 10%, and everything else is at the bottom, just so that we know where you're coming from when we're talking about stress and then dealing with insulin. Like I've sort of been seeing a lot about insulin lately. I've personally done a lot on understanding my blood sugar and all of that over the last probably couple of years. But that the more I hear about insulin, it seems to be a really key hormone. But while we're talking about that, talk about that 70% for a little bit. Like, what are your kind of core principles, or when you say it's about stress and diet, like what do you recommend in that part before we get to managing the little tiny bits that give us
Absolutely. When it comes to stress management, now let me just very clear. We're talking about cortisol stress management, endocrine stress management. There's something called oxidative stress as well. And we can deal I can briefly go over that as well, but let's talk about the stress management itself. When it comes to cortisol management, I usually recommend them about 15 things to do.
Wow, okay, all right. Maybe give us a couple. We don't need 15.
And it's not like you can only do one of the 15. No, you should do as many things as possible. Listening to music, humming, right? Just the humming sound itself will create a vagal tone. The vagal nerve will get activated and basically calms your brain down.
Okay.
Deep breathing, yoga, meditation, cold plunging, or hydrotherapy is what we call them. Grazing, just eye gazing to far away to the horizon. All these things. So if we just, I would say that, hey, there's people smarter than me, which is the AI robots. If we just put in AI robot, stress reducing elements, non-pharmacological, or non-medicated, you'll get a list of 15 things.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just want you to incorporate that in your daily life. And I can tell you a few things that I do, so that way you know what I'm doing. So every morning I will practice meditation. I
Mm-hmm.
will close my eyes. And the way I meditate, I see everything I do is two first. I never do one thing at a time. I always do two things. In my meditation, I'm thinking about gratitudes. So I'm not thinking about nothing else, which is meditation. But then I'm also, when my mind wanders way too much, so I think about things that I'm thankful for today. So every
Mm-hmm.
morning I'll spend about 15 minutes, and I will talk about, in my mind, what am I thankful for today? Three
Mm.
things. Like tomorrow morning, I can assure you, you'll be in my thoughts tomorrow, right? So
That's very kind. Yeah.
here today to spread this message that I never take anything for granted. And
Mm-hmm.
so all these things. So if you start grounding yourself, right? Well, grounding is another thing, right? Grounding your feet in the sand is another thing, but grounding yourself mentally, it
Yeah.
helps you to stay focused on your path. So that's what I do in the morning. Then
Mm-hmm.
I will do deep breathing with my meditations as well. Then I don't do cold plunging, but I do take cold showers every day. So I'll probably do cold showers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, for cold plunging, I have to get in a tub, and I just don't have. I don't know. That's not me probably.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
for every meeting, I will probably do a box breathing, so to basically just calm my nerves down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm always out in my backyard. I'll be watching to the horizon, watching the mountains. I'm in Los Angeles, so we see beautiful mountains
Yeah. Beautiful.
every
Yeah.
day. So I'll be in my backyard and probably watch the mountains every day as well. So the thing is, and of course I love music, so I'm constantly humming.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a few
Yeah.
things
You've
here
just
and there.
incorporated it into your daily routine, which is
Everything.
the only way to make it sustainable.
Otherwise you'll never be able to do it, right?
Mm.
When you talk about toxic relationships, toxic businesses, or whatever things you do, I don't need people in my life. I really don't. So if I don't have fun with people in my life, I try to keep my distance away from them as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. I don't cut ties completely because they need me more than I need them. So I want to be them for them. So I just want to be there, but I don't want to be part of my life because it just brings me down, right? I have a huge staff. I have multiple companies that I run. So
Mm-hmm.
I tell my staff too, you know what? If you're going to suck my energy out of me, please don't see me in the morning.
Well, it sounds like you've got really strong boundaries, and boundaries are really
Yeah.
healthy in relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I want people to make sure that this stress management is very critical. And then
Mm-hmm.
of course, once all this fails, then you go to the pills. And I'll tell you, pills don't work as efficiently as other things that do, right? So
Mm.
there's something called phosphatidylserines. It's an amino acid that people take to basically reduce the cortisol levels, and that works a little bit, but not very foolproof. In Los Angeles, I have lots of movie stars as my clients, and CEOs as my clients, and
Mm-hmm.
doctors as my client. And what they have is stress levels are very, very high.
Yeah.
And in their case, it's not the cortisol stress; it's the adrenaline stress. A lot of adrenaline is
Mm-hmm.
pumping in. And so this is my secret. They can't sleep at nighttime at all. There's so
Mm.
much wired. They're really tired. By the end of the day, they're really tired. But there's so much adrenaline into the system that they can't fall asleep at all.
Mm.
They're like
Mm.
jittery and just shaky all the time, right? It's not that they take too much coffee either. And so what I do for them is, if you think about the science, T3, thyroid, active thyroid inside your cell can push out the adrenaline out of your cell. So I prescribe them just a T3 right before they go to sleep, and literally
Mm.
10 minutes later, the pulse drops and the adrenaline's out of the system, and they're falling asleep completely.
Wow, that's interesting. I haven't heard about using T3 for sleep.
Oh
So
gosh, no.
without thyroid issues, but they're just helping them to.
Again,
It,
this is not for everybody. These
yeah,
are for
yeah, yeah.
people these are
That
people
really high stress.
very, very high stress. I have a lot of CEOs, I have a lot of billionaire clients, a lot of movie
Yeah.
stars,
Mm-hmm.
directors, uh, people with high positions. They are constantly being bombarded with a lot of different
Yeah,
situations, and
yeah,
and it's not like uh, they're trying to push away things. They themselves are that kind of person. They want to attract everything. They're like
yeah, yeah,
adrenaline junkies. They're
yeah, yeah.
junkies themselves, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, but I get them the T3, and literally 10 minutes later, they are dropping, the blood pressure drops, the pulse drops, and boom, they fall asleep.
Wow. Well, that's real. That is a little secret then, isn't it? Well,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. And so, in terms of diet and insulin, like, what are your recommendations around there? Maybe we work up the pyramid.
So, insulin is by far the most toxic chemical that we produce inside our body,
Hmm.
the most toxic chemical. So that's why insulin in your body needs to go up and come down really, really fast. You
Okay.
cannot have insulin in your body linger around for too long, because insulin will cause you oxidative stress. It can bring chaos in all kinds of chemical reactions
Yeah. Okay.
in your whole body. And oxidative stress is linked to each and every disease in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a whole other topic. We can
Yeah.
talk for an hour plus on that one. That's my book,
Mm-hmm.
The Glutathione Revolution. I wrote the book on glutathione. It's all about your body has a defense system built in to deal with oxidative stress by producing glutathione.
Mm-hmm.
And as we age, the levels are dropping and dropping and dropping, and we don't have enough of that. And so that my research has been over the 25 years on that particular molecule. How
Okay.
can I enhance it in your body? So
Mm.
you can do that. The number one thing you do that for that is, guess what? Reduce your exposure to toxic chemicals and toxic foods and toxicities in your life completely.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, in your diet, you have to have amino acid rich diet, which is mainly the cysteine, glycine, glutamine. But cysteine is probably the most, it's a stinky foods that nobody likes to eat. So that is
Uh,
part of the diet. But insulin, overall, the way you control insulin is you basically only eat real food.
mm-hmm.
Okay, lots of vegetables, lots and
Yeah.
lots of vegetables that will not spike your insulin levels. What spikes insulin is carbs, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to eat carbs, simple carbs, then you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
If you eat complex carbs, that's okay. But complex carbs, combine them with the fat, and guess what? The glycemic index will drop. So
Uh-huh.
the insulin
Okay.
doesn't spike. So if
Yeah.
you're gonna eat a potato, make sure there's enough butter or ghee or something on there, so to dampen the conversion
Uh-huh.
from a starch to sugar immediately, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're gonna drink coffee or tea, uh, I don't eat any sugars whatsoever.
Yeah.
My coffee, I don't drink coffee either. But if I do drink coffee or tea, which is maybe once a week, one cup, I'll
Mm-hmm.
put monk fruit extract in there. Now, monk fruit is not sugar, but it is sweet
Mm-hmm.
enough to get your taste buds so you feel good about it. It
Yeah.
will spike into the level a little bit, but not too high like a sugar would do it.
Okay.
Right?
So that's a
So
good sweetener if you
it's a
need
good
a little bit.
sweetener. Xylitol is good, but xylitol is you get too much of it. It will not get sweet enough. Stevia is another one. Stevia, I'm
Yeah.
not a big fan of it because
Yeah.
it
I don't like the
alters
taste of
the taste.
stevia. Yeah.
The taste is altered.
Yeah.
Even the monk fruit, the taste will be altered a little bit too. So I've gone myself beyond the stage of everything has to taste good to I'm only going to eat what's right for my body.
Yeah.
Like even so, this is my thing. I drink water probably about 3 or 4 bottles of these ones per day.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 to 4 liters a day is all I drink is water. And if I
Mm-hmm.
drink that much water, there's no space for any juices or teas or coffees or whatever.
Yeah. 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 You're too busy going to the toilet to get up to any with them,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And you gotta keep your kidneys all flushed out and all nice and clean at all times. So that's
Yeah.
what it is. So there's no magic behind controlling insulin other than everybody knows what to do. The
Mm.
question is, do you have the habits? Do you have the routine so that you don't fall off the routine, right? It's easy
Yeah.
to pick up a bag of chips or crisp and whatever, right? With your sandwiches. Or can you cut out the chips and all? And if you have to eat a sandwich and you have to have a chip, then cut the sandwich out completely. Have something else as
Yeah.
a meal, right?
Yeah.
So you got to retrain your brain in such a way that you're not craving some of the foods because it's like a pairing effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So, look, I'm sure there's a lot more about that we can talk about, but I want to get to the pointy tip of the pyramid, which is the
Okay.
sex
Sex
hormones.
hormones. Okay.
But I think it's really helpful to have that context that if you're just trying to deal with, if you like, so I turned 50 last year, so I'm kind of bang in the middle of all of that perimenopausal kind of stage. So if you're kind of like me and you're starting to get the odd hot flush and starting to notice some, if I look back, there's probably been other things I have noticed, but until really the last few months, I've been doing all right, and I'm kind of okay. But I think it's acknowledging, I mean, I would say for me, that 70%, like I've always got room to improve, but I've kind of worked a lot on that over many years. The diet, the lifestyle, the reducing toxins. And so, but if you're listening and you haven't, I think it sounds like, what you're saying, Dr. Patel, is really important to get that base right. You can't just expect to come in and sort out your estrogen and progesterone and testosterone, if you haven't got the base, kind of solid. Is that, or it's going to be much harder? Is that right?
It's not harder, but what when people come to me,
Mm-hmm.
they want to do this 10% of the problem solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said, give me the solution I need right now because I can't sleep. I have hot flash. I can't sleep. My libido is really low. My
Yeah.
doctor told me that I have osteoporosis. I can't remember things. I'm fatigued. I'm tired. I just don't know where to begin. So sometimes I go start from the top because that's what they want right now.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind, you got to fix the bottom to ever achieve full benefit. You
Uh-huh.
cannot deal with the hormones by itself and expect to have full recovery. Okay. So when it comes
Yeah.
to hormone replacement therapy, this is something that I've observed over the last 30 years, is that as people, well, first of all, let me just tell you one thing. In 30,000 years, our human genome hasn't even changed 0.2%.
Right.
Okay. That means our needs and our hormone regulations haven't changed for 30,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cavemen back then, cavewomen, whatever they did, and they're today's people, modern day people living in high society. The hormone hasn't changed. Our body hasn't, our physiology hasn't
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
The only thing that has changed is the environment, and that's how
Mm.
I'm stressing so much on the environment first, because
Yeah.
that has a major impact on your hormone cycles more than anything else.
Mm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So now that
Okay.
my point is clear, crystal clear, let's go
Yeah.
back to the hormones, okay?
Okay.
When it
Yeah.
comes to the hormones, it starts at a very early age, right?
Mm-hmm.
First is you're born with no cycles, and your body will eventually get your hormone levels to high enough because it's time for what? Reproduction, right? Unfortunately, I have two young daughters, and they already started having the periods at the age of 11. I said, "Oh my gosh,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I know,
It's becoming earlier, isn't it?
it's coming
Mm-hmm.
early and early every year." So I was kind of a
Mm.
little sad at that time, but that's what happens. So what happens is that at the first time they had the first period, is there is an imbalance in the hormone levels. I call this as a turbulence time. And somehow the body will adjust to it and make it fixer. And then you can go on without having any adjustments for long periods of time, maybe during your college years or your early marriage years in the late 20s, early 30s.
Mm-hmm.
There will be some PMS type symptoms and PMDD type symptoms. And then eventually it goes into perimenopause, which is the hormone cycles are kind of getting more erratic. And then eventually there's no more cycles and you go to menopause.
Mm-hmm.
The time that we're talking about is between the first year of the period and the last of the period,
Yeah.
right? PMS, PMDD, perimenopause, that's all the same things.
Mm-hmm.
All this time frame is what we're saying is that the body is trying to procreate,
Okay.
trying to
Yep.
produce babies. So the
Mm-hmm.
hormones are going up and down every single month in the hope they get pregnant. If you do get pregnant, the level never drops. The level just keeps on rising to maintain the pregnancy. Once the baby comes in, the level will drop again and back again. The same cycles up and down again for the whole
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're cycling up and down the whole time, really, you cannot address all the hormones. So when I do my treatments, I don't care if it's a 10-year-old girl, 11-year-old girl, or a 50-year-old woman that is still cycling. My thing is when I treat these people, I only adjust one hormone.
Okay.
And then I allow the brain, the pituitary, to adjust the rest for me.
Interesting. Okay.
So I only adjust progesterone because
Uh-huh.
progesterone has no toxicity, has very little side effects. There's no problems with it. It's completely safe. I can give you even if you're pregnant. So it's a very safe hormone to give. And so
Mm-hmm.
I adjust my hormone needs based on one hormone. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So once I balance the progesterone, the brain will remember, so, okay, this is how the hormone cycles work. And if I get the balance on, let's say at the age of 25 or under, 3 months later, I can take the progesterone away, and the brain, the pituitary remembers how
Right.
much to produce. And then you
Okay.
are off the medication. You don't need any more medication again, right?
Yeah.
Three
Yeah.
months, 6 months, maybe a year, and then the body will remember what to do, and you're off the hormones.
Yeah.
The same lady at the age of 30, 35 comes around.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to get them balanced off and the body to remember that part. So I can get
Uh-huh.
them balanced, but it's very hard for the body to remember that all the time. And
Okay.
so they may be stuck on the progesterone only treatment for a little bit longer periods of time until they hit menopause.
Yeah.
Once they hit menopause, all the hormones are no longer produced by ovaries. They're
Mm-hmm.
all produced by the adrenal glands, which is there to manage your stress. So
Oh,
think
okay.
about it. At the age of 50, 55, when you go into menopause, here you have a job, you have working, you're doing things,
Yeah.
and you're trying to manage your stress levels.
Mm-hmm.
And the adrenal glands, who's supposed to manage your stress levels, is now given a second job to produce all the hormones.
So it's
So
then under
now
pressure.
it cannot produce enough hormones. It cannot manage stress. So you're hot flashes, night sweats, not sleeping, and then you can't handle
Mm.
stress on top of it. Oh my God, it's a double whammy. And that's what the most of the people feel initially when they first go into menopause or the last couple of years into perimenopause. This is what's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what's happening. And so
Yeah.
for me, I in the last couple of years before they go to menopause, I started monitoring every single thing. And I may give them some testosterone, I may give them some DHEA.
Mm-hmm.
Very rarely, I may even give them some very low dose of estradiol. But
Okay.
again, it's all symptomatic relief, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
Okay.
do anything more than that. But when it comes to menopause, I want to make sure that I'm taking over the job and replacing whatever the body needs. Because if I don't do that part, the stress is going to be on the adrenal glands. And then if the adrenals are stressed out, you can manage your stress and your mental capacity decreases.
Mm-hmm.
How your mental ability to deal with the stresses decreases. And so it becomes very, very difficult. And so I'm using hormones to relieve the pressure on your brain so that
Mm-hmm.
the brain is able to deal with the problems itself. And
Yeah.
the hormones are going to be enough to help deal with osteoporosis, heart disease, brain
Mm-hmm.
function, mental health, and just overall the physiological symptoms of hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, low libido, all those things, right? Those I call them those are somatic symptoms, which
Mm-hmm.
is yes, it's nice not to have those things, but it's not something that is making or breaking your body.
Right. So if you were dealing with the stress,
Uh-huh.
then your adrenals could cope better with producing the hormones naturally, sort of in that menopausal stage, or do you think you always need a bit of hormonal support?
So
Or we just
I've never
realistically don't cope with the stress, so we do need
uh,
that.
not that. The thing is, I'm looking at back. So I have served probably over 1 million lives in my pharmacy over the
Mm-hmm.
last 30 years, right? I've served so
Mm-hmm.
many
That's a
lives,
lot. Yeah.
mostly women. I would say 80% women, 20%
Mm-hmm.
male.
Okay.
And I probably have over 1 million lives I've served over my lifetime so far. And I always think back and say, how many people have come to me and said that, hey, I have no symptoms, So I should not be taking any hormones, right? Which is
Yeah.
okay. But the thing is, as I said earlier, symptoms are somatic symptoms, is what I call them, somatic systems. The symptoms is not what's affecting your body. Lack of hormones is actually affecting your skin health, your liver health, your heart health, your brain health,
Mm. Hmm.
and so your bone health. All these things being affected, right? And the unfortunate part is, if you don't take care of it, by the time you find out that there's a problem with it, you can reverse it back.
Hmm.
And so this
So,
is my biggest concern is always going to be is that let's not wait until it just gets bad, because if it does get bad, which it
mhm.
will, this I cannot bring you back.
Okay. So when do you recommend then a woman should be looking at her hormones and doing something about it? Like at what stage, assuming that there's no significant issue like that you might have in your 30s or even early 40s, like is there a stage or a rough age where you think, yes, you need to start paying attention now so that you can get it sorted before you end up in a bad way?
So I always tell them, like, I have two young daughters, and I tell them the same thing. If you're having issues, even at the age of 14 or 15, let me fix the hormone for you temporarily. Let me see if I can recalibrate your body. And if I can
Mm-hmm.
do so, the brain will remember what's right for me, and then just stop taking the hormones, and I'll be fine. So I treat my own girls too. I do take care of them as well. They don't like to
Mm-hmm.
talk to me. They like to talk to my mom, to her mom, but not to me, of course. I said, Dad, no, I can't talk to you. I said, that's grown.
You just give me you just sort my hormones out that I'll talk to. Go, oh, it's all going to be fine, mum.
Yes. And so, which is fine. I said, okay, that's all right. So I do take care of them. So I
Mm-hmm.
always tell people that if you're symptomatic, I don't care if you're 25-year-old, 35-year-old, 45-year-old, if you're symptomatic, please, please, please take care of it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you only need one hormone, which is progesterone. You can adjust anything you want to do, adjust in your whole body with just one hormone. You don't
Mm.
have to take anything more than progesterone, nothing more than progesterone, right?
And so, what symptoms should you be looking out for then? Like when you say if you
Oh,
experience any symptoms,
I
like
mean,
what?
PMS. There's a book called Once a Month by Dr. Katrina Dalton. She was a doctor. She was an OB/GYN out of UK.
Hmm.
They gave us a progesterone treatment back in the 50s, 1950.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's an amazing book to read because it will give you a perspective of what symptoms are out there and how she treated
Yeah.
them. And she only
Hmm.
used progesterone her whole life to
Okay.
treat all the problems with the PMS and perimenopausal symptoms. And
Mm.
the symptoms could be, so she's identified 150 symptoms.
Right. Yeah.
Anything that can happen before the period and goes away as soon as you start your menstrual cycle.
Uh
It
huh.
could be due to PMS. I'm talking about mental disorders, psychosis,
Mm.
infections, uh, sleep issues, brain issues, fogginess or memory issues,
Mm.
night sweats, fatigue. I mean, all kinds of things.
Yeah.
As soon as every period, it goes away. That's PMS. We
Yeah.
can take
Okay.
care of that. But again, so most of the people that start the first problem, the first onset of the problem happens after the first childbirth.
Uh huh.
That's
Oh,
where I see,
okay. So that
that,
early. Yeah. Okay.
that's where I see the first problem. Thyroid, it doesn't matter. It can happen anytime, right? It's
Yeah.
just what your exposure to. But when it comes to hormonal symptoms, is usually around about the first childbirth. If they have abused alcohol and cigarettes, it will be happening much earlier than that as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't drink
Okay.
alcohol, if you don't smoke cigarettes, then at least you'll be able to postpone the problems until the first childbirth. If a childbirth was normal and it was great, there's a very good chance you can have no problem,
Okay.
right? And then you can go to the second childbirth and the third. By the
Mm-hmm.
by the third, I have yet to find any lady that have come to us with the normal hormone levels. Usually, the
Interesting.
second
Okay.
childbirth is already happening
Okay.
because the needs for hormones are getting there, getting up there. The stress level is increasing, right?
Mm.
Both financial stress, the baby stress, taking care of
Mm.
kids is it's not easy. Most guys aren't involved in the life anyways, and so that becomes even harder for the ladies to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing everything by themselves sometimes, and so that makes it even harder. So stress kicks in, and that will disrupt the hormone cycle. So that's a time for sure you take. Now, here's
In terms of getting it checked, like, is that what you're saying? Like, you get
you look
those.
up for the symptoms. If the symptoms are there,
Yeah.
other treatments. So in
So
US,
you
it's
should test your progesterone levels.
so, you know what? I've done so many tests and I've done saliva tests, urine tests, blood tests. I've done every single test that you can think of doing.
Mm-hmm.
And tests doesn't tell you what you're feeling. If you tell me
Yeah.
that I have hot flashes and your test shows that you have normal levels,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I'm having hot flashes. I don't care what the test says, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
test is not the indicator of what your body is.
Uh-huh.
So
Yep.
I would suggest don't test, make a log of all the symptoms and see
Mm-hmm.
where the symptoms are coming in and follow the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah.
can recognize the pattern, and the pattern is around the cycles and around your hormone
Mm-hmm.
ovulation time, you
Mm-hmm.
can figure out where things are happening. If that's what's happening, go to a doctor who recognizes those patterns and can help you treat those patterns. Once you
Yeah.
can treat this done correctly, it will break the pattern. Symptoms are gone. But more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, what it's doing is it's allowing your body to delay the process of menopause,
Mm. Okay.
right? And here's the thing. Here's one thing that I want to make sure people understand that if you do the treatment early on, before you go into menopause, then the menopause becomes very easy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you hit menopause, all your hormones can be checked out and can be replaced. All of them can be replaced. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHA, pregnenolone, thyroid, everything can be replaced, right? And if you do it correctly, you can literally push out end-stage diseases.
Uh-huh.
There was a study done in France. It was a French cohort study on 3,000 women taking natural progesterone, bioidentical progesterones, and estradiol combination
Mm-hmm.
as a cream, topical cream. And over 9 or 10 years of time they took the hormones, the risk for breast cancer was only 0.98. So let me tell you what the number means. If
Mm-hmm.
you're an 18-year-old girl with no risk for breast cancer, your risk for breast cancer is about 1.18.
Okay.
The highest risk for any women in their life is at the age of 45. The risk of breast cancer is 1.8.
Mm-hmm.
And then the risk drops again after 45. It drops again and starts creeping up again after the age of 70. And by 80, it reaches about 1.8 again.
Okay.
The women that took hormones for 10 years, the risk was only 0.98,
Right.
lower than an
Lower than the
18-year-old
average.
girl with
Yeah.
no
Right.
risk for breast cancer. So
Wow.
what that tells me is that doing the right treatment, a balanced form of hormones,
Mm-hmm.
it's absolutely a must. My wife's 52,
Mm-hmm.
and as you can imagine, I've been taking care of her for 26 years
Yeah.
with the hormone replacement therapy. We have three beautiful kids, and since I met her, she's been on the hormone replacement therapy with me for all these years, and
Okay.
hasn't gone to menopause yet, but it's still there. But I still take care of hormones every single month.
Mm. And so what does that look like in terms of like, are there different kinds of hormones to take? Like, herbal supports part of that? Like, how does
No, so
how does all that work?
herbs are not hormones. Like for
Yeah.
example, if you tell me that hey, I'm diabetic, but I'm going to instead of taking insulin, I'm going to take some herbs. No, no, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Hormones are something that is part of an endocrine system, right? Let's not play around with the herbs because they really does not replace what your body's missing.
Mm-hmm.
You may get some response out of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? But the response is not positive or negative. It could be something different, right?
Right.
And I don't care about that one. What I do about hormone replacement therapy, I'm actually replacing the actual hormone the body produces, not
Okay.
a
Yeah.
synthetic form. Our body
Mm-hmm.
produces estradiol, estriol, estrone, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone, progesterone. Replace those back, exact
Okay.
same one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you take levothyroxine. Our body produces levothyroxine and levothyroxine. We produce both of them. So you take those.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, why can't you take a pig thyroid? Because it's not produced by humans, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
take T3 combinations or T4 by itself and the body adjust it on its own. I'm okay with that too. So
Okay.
when it comes to replacement for the hormones, you have to replace with exactly what a body produces and nothing besides that.
Okay. And so, how do you, I mean, I suppose that's where you got to go to your doctor, and then they're going to prescribe a certain, whatever they're going to prescribe.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
hormones, I mean, they come in different dosage form, right? There are patches
Mm-hmm.
available, pills, injections, all kinds of things. But keep in mind that not all hormones are identical either, because some of the hormones that are produced in the laboratory to make it soluble, they have to make it into a different dosage. They have to make it into like a different salt form. Like
Mm-hmm.
instead of having estradiol to make injectable, they make it estradiol valuate, which is an ester of estrogens, so it can dissolve in the oils. That actually is not what a body produces,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it will linger in your body for what, 14, 15 days. Versus estradiol can only stay in the body for 12 hours. So get in, get the job done, and get out.
Okay.
That's the kind of hormones I want, right?
Yeah.
I'll take it daily. I'll take it when I need, get the job done, and then get out of the body.
So is it something then that you need to have, like, obviously you're a compounding pharmacist, so is this something that is best individually dealt with
It
on an individual basis, or
it
and
doesn't
having
have to
something
be.
specially?
It doesn't have to be. Uh, I mean, it doesn't have to be. So a lot of people are quite okay with just there are few commercially available products that, in the marketplace. You can just buy
Mm-hmm.
and put it on, and if it works for them, great, job's done, right?
Yeah.
But then there are a few people that needs customization because just a lifestyle, right? As I said
Yeah.
earlier, I have a lot of clients that they don't even know what time zone they're in. They're flying from Hollywood
Right.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
Toronto to
Yeah.
UK to Brazil on a movie
Mm-hmm.
shoot, coming back, and they don't even know where they are. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So half the time
Yeah.
they just are all zombies, and so
Yeah.
it's a very difficult lifestyle. And for them, it's just the needs for hormones are extremely high.
Sure.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think, Dr. Patel, I mean, I know our medical systems are quite different, the
Yes.
US and the Australian medical systems are quite different, but I think I mean, from talking to lots of different people, there are some similarities in that your average general, I mean, we call them general practitioner or, general medical doctor that you go to see at your local clinic doesn't always have their head around, certainly thyroid health. We get a lot of
No.
feedback that most doctors have no idea really about, other than just take your pill, that's all you can do, and aren't open to the different kinds of thyroid medications even. So when it's coming to dealing with um, at perimenopausal stage and dealing with these individual hormones, do you think your average doctor is sort of all over
No.
this, or do you need to go to a more specialised doctor?
No, it's not. And the reason I tell you why is because an average doctor will spend 4 years in college to learn the whole body. Then they'll do 2 years of residency to learn about specific part,
Mm-hmm.
and then they will go for 2 years of postgraduate to specialize in something very specific into a surgery or something like that. So let's look at it. Hormones are part of the endocrine system.
Yeah.
So let's say, okay, I went 4 years of college, and now I'm going to do 2 years of specializing or residency in endocrinology.
Yeah.
If you think about endocrinology, what's the number one thing they learn? They're only learning the extremes.
Mm.
They're learning if you're diabetic, how to deal with it. If you have Addison's or Graves' disease, that means you have too much of too little of something, I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
But if you're sort of normal,
Mm.
don't waste my time. I got no time for you because you should be okay. So just
Yeah,
your
yeah. You're
diet,
not
your
interesting
exercise,
enough. Yeah. Yeah.
not juicy enough, not juicy enough. So it's not just your Australia or United States or anywhere in the, it's
Mm.
everywhere in the world the same exact problem.
Mm.
Exactly the same problem. So the key is we have to find doctors that have gone through some postgraduate training,
Mm-hmm.
have specialized themselves into hormone replacement, or age management or integrative medicines and things like that, and
Mm-hmm.
interview them and say, hey, what's your expertise lies, what have you done, how many patients have you treated, and ask questions. That's what I do in the United States all the time.
Yeah.
And like it or not, it's very hard to find people. And over here in the US over the last 5 years, something has come out very, very nice for us is that now there's something called telehealth.
Yeah, that's right. COVID, that's a good thing that came out of COVID.
That's the
Here,
best thing
at
about it
least.
for because
Yeah.
now I can have a doctor in New York City seeing a patient in
Mm,
Los Angeles,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's so much better now. So now you don't have to
Mm,
now you don't travel anymore. You can see the patients over the Zoom, over the call, and get your services done. And so
yeah.
that's the best part that happened to us as well. And so take advantage of that.
Yeah. So it's a bit like looking for a good thyroid doctor. Like, when you're dealing with those, other hormones, it's really, you've got to shop around. You've got to find the right person. Don't just assume that whoever you're going to get at your 24/7 medical center is going to be able to help you. Yeah.
Unfortunate. But the thing is, they are good. There are some great endocrinologists that will deal with the thyroid medication.
Okay.
Uh, and so don't just poo-poo them and not, oh, no, these are the ones. So
Mm,
no, I want to go with somebody who specializes in it. There may be some good ones out there. They have done this work and they understand that part. So I'll
mhm.
definitely give them a chance first because they have the education, they have the knowing about and beyond. If something really goes bad, you want somebody who knows about and beyond just taking care of you in your small area. What if something
Yeah.
goes really bad? Then
Yeah.
they should
Yeah.
be, yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, that's my dog. It's just must be someone at the door. Sorry, I was like, oh,
that's
keep me
okay.
fright.
That's
um, okay, so progesterone is the key, the one to look at
yes.
replacing, because that then will help the body to um, adjust the other hormones.
It will
Um,
counterbalance the hormones, yes.
hmm. And so, is there? I mean, I think about myself. I, I certainly haven't been on anything up until this point, so I was sort of just starting to kind of look at those things. So it's interesting when you're saying, like, really probably from post babies, this should have been a little bit closer
Aging.
management. So I think, oh, that's
And
interesting.
so
Well, too late for that for me now, but it's about, well, what, we've got to start, and I'm aware, obviously, got to start looking at that, and I am working on that with my doctor, and I've got, not actually taking progesterone yet. Um, so, yeah, so this has been a really interesting conversation, given me personally some things to think about. I'm wondering, in terms of just overlaying someone who, hey, say, has Hashimoto's, that underactive thyroid, is
mm.
there any considerations when we're dealing then with the sex hormones that we have to be aware that's a little bit different, because we are managing thyroid hormone issues as well?
So for the sex hormones are mainly for sex hormones, SHBG will be measures for sex hormones. For thyroid, we have also thyroid binding globulins, TBGs. So we have that as well that we have to work with as well. So you brought up a point about Hashimoto's. That's a whole different
Yeah,
story.
yeah,
Okay?
yeah.
Because Hashimoto's could be virus induced, could be
Hmm.
toxicity induced. But what it is that basically there's an autoimmune component in Hashimoto's that is attacking on thyroid.
Yeah.
So I have a fair amount of clientele for Hashimoto's
Hmm.
because they're coming to me on the integrative medicine side with the glutathione product that we have.
Uh-huh. Okay.
They did
Right.
the glutathione for the oxidative stress, and the
Mm-hmm.
Hashimoto's gets better for them all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have
Yes.
countless people that come to me and say, "Hey, my thyroid antibodies have dropped dramatically." I said,
Oh,
"Great.
that's good.
Yeah, so reduce your thyroid medication." That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, it's a pleasant surprise. And so what we are
Mm.
seeing is that your body's own defense system is glutathione. If we can enhance that, it will actually help detoxify your liver with heavy metals and toxic chemicals. And by doing
Mm-hmm.
so, it can also detoxify your thyroid.
Okay.
When it does
Your
that,
actual thyroid gland.
of
Is
an
that what you
actual
mean?
thyroid gland.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
we
All
can,
right.
if we can
Yep.
do that, if we can do that part, there's a very good chance that your TPOs and the antibodies can come down to close to zero.
Wow. Okay.
And if that happens, I have not have anybody yet taken off the thyroid medication completely, but
Mm-hmm.
I have endless people that have reduced the medication down to bare minimum because now they don't need that much medication anymore.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. So that's where the glutathione can come in. But in terms of then like your hormone replacement therapy, is there anything in that stage when you're taking that you need to be aware with thyroid medication, or there's no kind of extra cautions or anything like
There's
that?
no extra cautions
Yeah,
other than the
okay.
fact that you got to do it all the time. You
Yeah,
cannot replace the hormones and thyroid separately. You got to do it at the same time. When
yeah.
you check the endocrine system, you check everything out. Check the cholesterol, check the heart, check your sex hormones, your insulin, your cortisols, your thyroid, everything. And
Hmm.
try to put a plan together that can address all these different issues at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know sometimes and potentially for me, this has probably been where I look back and I think, oh, maybe that what I thought was a thyroid issue was probably more of a perimenopausal issue, some kind of joint pain and that kind of thing. And I've always, I suppose, because I'm in the thyroid headspace, I think, attribute different things to thyroid issues as opposed to just say perimenopausal symptoms. And that's where it gets a bit complicated because they can be either, it could be either. So,
It is. And when it comes to joint pain, it could be because of androgens, DHEA.
mm,
It could be from inflammation coming from exotic chemicals, and for that you have glutathione. So there's so many different things you can do. So you cannot look at the symptom, and if you do not know what the cause of the symptom is, try to attribute something product, right?
yeah.
And so I always look at back. I said, any symptoms I get, I go back to basics. What's the number one thing I do? Make sure I reduce my exposure to toxic chemicals and pollution, things like that. Two,
Hmm.
make sure my diet is full of vegetables and proteins that our body needs to consume. No chemicals, no pesticides, no fertilizers, as much organic as possible, right?
Yeah.
Then
Hmm.
three, after that, can I enhance my body's own glutathione production because that's what the number one molecule the body is produced. After that is like, okay, now what? Then you start looking to fine tuning the problem, but those gross issue has to be dealt with first.
Yeah. 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 I think that's a good sort of circling back to where we started. And yeah, which is great. It sort of does bring it back to, get this. It's like, I often say this, if you regular listeners will know, like if you can get the basics right, like get the fundamentals, and then that's going to reduce a whole lot of symptoms. And then, if you need that specialized help, get the specialized help. But if you're trying to get the specialized help and you're still eating gluten, sugar, and drinking too much, you probably just,
Wasting time and money.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. You
yeah.
can kind of get the low hanging fruit yourself. It's not easy, but you can do it, and then use the experts for that fine tuning.
And you're absolutely right. It's not easy at all. It has taken me over 16 years, and I've been stacking habits after habits after habits over the last 16 years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
easy.
still learning. We're
You're
still on
learning as
that
well.
path.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, the more I know, the less I do now. Right? I don't go out. I don't go out parties anymore. I don't go out at
Hmm.
all. As a
Yeah.
responsible, I eat home cooked meals all the time. I don't
Yeah.
drink alcohol at all. And so things like that. I have you do things about what's right for your body, but it's a stacking, right? It's you have
Yeah.
to stack it over the years. If you expect to change everything in one day, it's not long lasting. Make
Yeah.
small changes on a regular basis and stick to it. Put it part of the morning routine or the evening routine, and make a routine out of everything. And if you do so, yeah, you can have a very long, healthy life. Is what I'm hoping for everybody.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you, Dr. Patel. Thank you I know we've kind of covered quite a lot of different topics within the last
Of
hour.
course.
So I really thank you for that breadth of experience and expertise that you've shared with us and your generosity of your time. So I know, just tell us what the name of your book is, and like if people were wanting to kind of connect with you,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
tell us a bit about that.
the book is called The Glutathione Revolution,
Mm-hmm.
and it's available everywhere. You can just get it in Australia as well. Not a big
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
I have a couple of websites. For the
Mm-hmm.
pharmacy, if you have any information about pharmacy, my company pharmacy is Central Drugs, and the website is centraldrugsrx.com. It's
Mm-hmm.
CENTRALDRUGSRX.com.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have more information about my longevity protocols and my age management and all those things, it's Oro Wellness. It's AURO Wellness, UELLNESS.com. You can get the
Excellent.
book over there, and you can get more. I have newsletters coming out every week and things like that. My passion is education, and I want to make sure that people get educated.
Yeah, excellent. Well, yeah, look, I love reading new different books, and that whole glutathione topic is a whole nother topic. I know that, but I love the way that, you've kind of whetted our appetite around that too. So yeah, if you're listening and you want to pursue that, grab a hold of the book, check out the websites and see what Dr. Patel has on offer for you. So yeah, I like to always wrap up the episodes by challenging my listeners just to think about what's one thing, that you can take away from this episode, because we've covered a lot. And if you think, I want to do everything, you probably do nothing. So just think of one thing that you can take away to investigate, to do, to, just to think about and action that one thing. But thank you again, Dr. Patel, so much for being on the show. And really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Thyroid. If you have enjoyed the content, or perhaps you're thinking, my mum needs to hear this, or my sister or my bestie, I would love it if you would share this episode with them. That really just helps spread the positive and practical message of Let's Talk Thyroid, and helps that broader thyroid community, our friends and family, to live well with their thyroid health. So you can just, share the episode. If you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast, it's free. It's really helpful, because then you'll be notified every time a new podcast comes out, and it just makes it much easier to find. There's usually a little subscribe button, or a bell, or follow often is the terminology. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be helpful. Of course, if you want to leave a review, even better, just a sentence or two about how the podcast has helped you. You can definitely connect with me via letstalkthyroid.com. That's where you'll find access to my book, my coaching, my freebies, and really everything that I offer in terms of thyroid support. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.